Story: The Magical Garden Adventure. Chapter 1: The Secret Garden. Lila's heart beat with excitement and wonder as she stumbled upon a hidden garden. Quite a blunder. The beauty of the flowers and plants in sight filled her with joy and a sense of delight. As she explored the garden, she heard a squawk. Turning around, she saw a talking parrot, Polly the Talk. Polly told her of the garden's magic and charm, and introduced her to other talking animals on the farm. Lila met a wise old owl named Hooty, and a mischievous squirrel named Nutmeg, quite a cutie. Together they showed Lila the secrets of the garden, and taught her about the magic that it could harden. As the sun began to set, and the stars lit up the sky, Lila knew this was a magical place she could never deny. She thanked her new friends for showing her the way, and promised to come back to the garden every day. Chapter 2: The Enchanted Path. Lila and her friends continued on their way. Through the winding path, they couldn't stray. Suddenly they met Nutmeg, the squirrel so sly, who led them astray. But Lila knew why. The path they followed was full of twists and turns, but with each step, their curiosity only churned. As they walked, they came across a steep hill, an obstacle that seemed impossible to fulfill. But Lila and her friends didn't give up their quest. Together they worked to conquer the hill with their best. With grit and determination, they climbed higher until they reached the top and lit their fire. As they looked down on the garden below, they knew their journey was not yet over. Oh number, for there were still challenges to face and discover, but with their friendship and teamwork, they would uncover. Chapter 3: The Colorful Fairies. Lila and her friends met a group of fairies so bright, who showed them the way with their magical light. The fairies had wings, shining in the moon's beam, and their laughter filled the garden like a beautiful dream. The fairies welcomed Lila and her friends with glee, and taught them a song that filled their hearts with glee. The magical song could help them in times of need, to overcome obstacles, and to succeed. The fairies' voices were like music in the air, and Lila and her friends learned the song with care. They sang it together, feeling its power, and knew it would help them in any hour. As they said goodbye to the fairies and their cheer, Lila and her friends felt no more fear, for they had the magic of the garden in their hands, and the power of the song to conquer any land. Chapter 4: The Wise Owl. Lila and her friends came across an old owl named Hooty, wise and learned. He had the answers to their duty. He told them of a key hidden in the garden's midst that would unlock the magic they had always wished for. The key was lost, Hooty said with a frown, and the search for it would not be easy, but quite a showdown. But with their friendship and determination, they could find it and unlock the magic that had long been knit. The friends set out to search for the missing key. Through the garden's nooks and crannies, they roamed free. They searched high and low, through bushes and trees, and even in the pond with the lilies and the bees. But the key was nowhere to be found. Oh dear. And the friends felt their hopes slowly disappear. Yet, they did not give up, for they knew what they sought, and that the key was still out there, waiting to be caught. With the help of their friends and their magical song, Lila and her friends continued their search, so strong. And as the sun began to set, they saw a glint of gold, and there it was, the missing key. They had been told. They took the key and ran back to Hooty with pride, and he smiled at them, knowing they had found what they had tried. He gave them the lock, and the key fit perfectly, unlocking the garden's magic so wondrously. Chapter 5: The Challenging Maze. Lila and her friends encountered a tricky maze. The labyrinth was so complex that left them in a daze. The walls were tall, and the path so narrow. They felt like they were lost in endless sorrow, but they didn't give up. They had come too far, and the key to the magic was their shining star. So they put their heads together and worked as a team to find their way through the maze. So it would seem. The maze was tricky, with twists and turns, and they had to be careful with each step they learned. They followed the path, taking turns to lead, and soon they found a clue that they would need. The clue was a riddle that made them think, and they had to solve it to find the missing link. They put their heads together and worked it out, and the answer came to them, without a doubt. They followed the clue, and it led them to a door, and as they opened it, they heard a mighty roar, for there in front of them stood the missing key, and they had found it with their wits and their teamwork. With glee, they grabbed the key and ran out of the maze, feeling triumphant in so many ways, for they had overcome the tricky maze test and found the key to the garden's magic at its best. Chapter 6: The Hidden Key. Lila and her friends had searched far and wide, and at last, they found the key they had sought, with pride. But there was one last obstacle they had to face, a challenge that put their bravery to the race. Before they were a gate, tall and grand, but it was locked, and they couldn't understand. The key they had found was meant for this gate, but they couldn't find a way to unlock its fate. Then they heard a sound, a low and ominous growl, and they turned around to see a creature that made them howl. It was a fearsome dragon, with scales so red, its fiery breath made them quake with dread. But Leela and her friends didn't lose their nerves, for they had a magical song that they could serve. They sang it with all their might, so bold, and the dragon's anger began to fold. The dragon calmed down, and so did the gate, and they could see the keyhole. It was not too late. They inserted the key, and it fit perfectly, unlocking the gate with a magical symphony. They opened the gate and stepped inside, and the garden's magic engulfed them like a tide. They saw the flowers bloom and the trees sway, and they knew that they had found the way. The garden was theirs, and so was the key, and they had overcome their fears so easily. With friendship, bravery, and a magical song, Leela and her friends had found where they belonged. Chapter 7: The Surprising Secret. Leela and her friends had unlocked the garden's magic, and they felt a truly fantastic thrill. The garden bloomed with colors they had never seen, and the air was filled with a scent so serene. They walked through the garden, hand in hand, and they knew that their journey had been so grand, for they had found a treasure, a place so divine, and the magic of the garden was truly sublime. As they walked, they saw a sight that took their breath away. A beautiful waterfall, cascading magically. The water sparkled like diamonds in the sun, and they knew that their adventure had just begun. They played and laughed in the garden's magic land, and they knew that they had found a true wonderland. The real magic of the garden was not just in its beauty, but in the power of friendship and the love of nature so truly. They hugged and smiled, and they knew in their heart that this adventure was truly just the start, for they had found a garden full of magic and surprise, and the beauty of nature was the real prize. Leela and her friends had unlocked the garden's magic, and they knew that it would stay with them forever, so fantastic. For the magic of the garden was a gift so rare, a treasure they would cherish, a memory they would share. Chapter 8: The Return Home. Leela said goodbye to her animal friends, and she knew that their adventure had come to an end. She hugged them tight, and with a tear in her eye, she said goodbye and let out a sigh. She walked back through the garden with a heavy heart, but she knew that she had to depart, for she had learned so much in her magical journey, and the lessons she learned would stay with her eternally. She reached her house and went to bed, thinking about the garden that she had just left. She closed her eyes and fell asleep, and into a dream so magical and deep. In her dream, she saw the garden again, and her animal friends, who were now her best friends. She saw the waterfall and the flowers so bright, and she knew that the garden was still her delight. In her dream, she remembered the lessons she learned about friendship and nature that her heart had earned. She knew that the real magic was not in the key, but in the love and the joy that friendship could be. She woke up with a smile on her face, and knew that the garden was still a magical place, for she had learned the power of love and the beauty of nature, and she knew that the garden would stay with her forever. Leela had a magical adventure in the garden so grand, and the memories she made would always stay in her hand, for she had learned so much in her journey so true, and the magic of the garden was a treasure she would pursue. The end.